Hello and welcome to the next step where I'm going to show you how to create a logo using a free account at canva.com. But before I do that, I'm going to share another tip, which is around continuously learning. The headline on this for me is motion is not always progress. So the last video I reshot a number of times. And I reshot it a number of times because I was trying really hard just to get it done and finished. And funnily enough, in that exact video, if you remember, one of my tips towards the end was to take breaks. And I didn't do that when I was reshooting it over and over. And then I did it and I finished it, and it is as you've just viewed. And I've still missed off two little explanations. So this, I figured rather than reshooting it again, I would just be humble and I would, I guess, show you and prove that it's really easy to get lost down the rabbit hole and to, in my case, ignore my own advice. So take breaks and reflect on what you're trying to achieve and actually set yourself little targets between the break you're on and the next break and really connect with what you're doing. Don't just continually crack on. Instead, continually learn. So I hope that makes sense. The two things that I had not shown you were columns and section styling. So this here is a section. You're probably aware of that. The one that you may not have picked up on is this. This is a column, and it's this column here. This here. And these are columns inside inner sections within this column, which is within this section. Don't get too worried about how that's structured. The key here is that you can design the sections and columns just like you can elements. You've probably already seen the section styling because we added a background. You can make that a colour. So you can make this entire background a simple colour. You can actually make it a gradient colour. So you can very much do things like this. Personally, I wouldn't do that on a background. I think it's a bit too much, but it's up to you. If you want to alter this here, you can see how this is a slightly transparent backdrop. You would go to this, the column, click in here, and you would alter it here, look. So you can see how it alters. I think I actually have increased that slightly. Since the last video, as I said, I went through and finished tweaking my colour and style. The next explanation that I missed off was this little section here. So these are shape dividers. This is something that you can add to sections to just bring content out. Remember, any design style is all around trying to make content shout, obviously make it look nice. It's delicate balance. I typically use these quite sparingly. If you want to alter the colour, as you can see, there's different types of shape background, but if you wanted to alter the colour, you would do so here, like that. So anyway, on to creating a logo. Go to canva.com, sign up for a free account. You should end up with a screen like this and go to create a design. You want to custom dimensions, set that to 1000 wide and 400 high, and then press the button create design. This is very straightforward. This really is a kind of, if you've not got any kind of logo and you'd like to do it yourself, this is something that is good enough in my view. We're going to create the base rectangular logo in Canva, and then I'll show you later on in a future video how to make that. Actually, you can curve the edges just a bit, just to make it look a little bit more, I guess, just a little better on the web screen. Should you want to, maybe clean cut sharp edges of a rectangle are more appropriate for what you're trying to do, but I give you the option. So here I can put the brand colour background on here, which is our, as I say, as you can recognise that colour, it's certainly from our brand. You may not be able to do that on a free account. I do have a pro account. It doesn't matter because you can type the hex code in the magnifying glass above. Let me show you as I go in a second. Just if I just type the hex code of that green, you can find the colour anyway from the search. So you don't need to subscribe to Canva to do this stuff. So put a rectangular shape on there. This is the background. We're going to obviously then add some text in the middle once I've just set the dimensions of this correctly. That white border will apply to this. Should you want it. Again, I don't want it, but I'm just showing you how to do it so that you can have a white border, or you can colour that border any colour you like, which I'll show you in a minute. The point here is that it's a straightforward logo that's pretty straightforward to create. It's not going to take too long. It means you've got something to put at the top in that header that looks, I would say, more than good enough. I think it can look quite neat. You can pull the colours if you are trying to create a series of colours that you're going to use, a 4-colour palette, so to speak. You can obviously use those on here, which is why we like Canva. Let me just get these sizings right. You may have a little bit of back and forth on this. As you increase the size, you then need to move it. Sometimes it doesn't quite, the proportions might not be quite right. It's a little bit of trial and error, but ultimately that purple line shows that it's horizontally aligned, but ultimately you'll get there. Once you've got that in the right space shape of the size, you can then change the font. Again, as you can see, these are uploaded fonts. I think you need a pro account with Canva or whatever it may be to do that. Honestly, there are so many fonts in Canva, so many that are free. This one here is a Canva Pro one, so you've got to pay. That's the little crown. But there are so many fonts on here. I would be staggered if you couldn't find one that's free that would do a good job for what you need. Of course, you can buy the Pro account. It's not particularly pricey, if I remember. It's pretty reasonable. But it's something that I would say, unless you're going to use it month in, month out, you may not want to pay a monthly subscription, which I think is what it is. So anyway, I'm going to set it to Righteous. So once you've picked a font out of the hundreds that are available, many that are free, you then just put it in, get the font right. You will then resize again, because obviously the type of font can affect how big letters are in that specific font, so it does make a difference. Once you're happy with that, we're then going to group it together. So drag a box across it all, then press group, and then we're going to look to download it, which we do in that download button in the top right. You can't do it on a transparent background. Again, the crown there shows that it's Canva Pro, but it doesn't matter. One, you may want the white border, but two, I'm also going to show you a way in WordPress where you can get rid of that anyway. You can just crop it off. So once it's downloaded, go back to your website. Go back to your web page in Elementor, click on where the Webbit logo would be, assuming that it did come with the template. Upload yours that you've just downloaded from Canva, like so, and then size it. You would click on the image, much like you click on an element, and change the width accordingly. Bit of trial and error. Bit of trial and error. I always set width and max width to the same. That looks fine to me. So back in Canva, if you are loving Canva, so to speak, you can change that border to a different colour, like so. If you download it, that will be in that colour. Or you can actually alter the sizing of the green background in such a way. This will take some faffing around, which is why I think the WordPress way is easier. If you want rid of that white frame, you can expand it in such a way that will cover that whole surface. That white background is essentially the downloadable tile. So whatever's in that white background, and the white background will go in the download. So you could obviously expand that and cover the whole thing and then download it again. Or you can do it this way. If we go back into Elementor, and from within the builder, click on the image in question. If you go to the content tab at the top, click in the image, click on it again and go to edit image, and it'll open a new window. So the page builder's in the other window, in the other tab. Press crop, and if you bring in the edges, you can see that you can actually just cut those off right here in WordPress. The page builder is still open. Do that, press crop, and there you go. Click on save, and then go back to Elementor. You can shut that window now. Go back to Elementor. Just come out of this insert image thing screen. Update to save all the changes. You have changed the logo, and then refresh the page, and it should put in the crop logo as we just did. And there you go. That's how you create a logo, start a logo in Canva.